Hi, how are you? Teresa's not feeling well today, so she suggested that I do the video talking about some of the stuff I've learned after 34 years in the grocery business. First off, we've got to do the weather, and it is Wednesday, July 24th at 8:16 in the p.m. It is 76 degrees out there, and feels like 76 degrees. High was 81. The low tonight is 61. Wind is out of the east at 5 miles an hour. Sunset was at 6:51, and sunset is at 8:36. Okay, now I got all the hard stuff taken away. I worked for 34 years at a grocery store. 14 of those was running the liquor store. And I thoroughly enjoyed, especially the liquor business. One of the things in Casper, Wyoming, is if you worked in a grocery store, you were kind of looked down upon like you were just barely half a step above fast food. And a lot of people don't realize that how much planning and how much intelligence that you have to actually set up a store to maximize your profits. First off, all the big chains, they have a layout map, and as people walk in the front door, they have done studies, so they know how the biggest percentage of people are going to go walk into the store, and the biggest percentage, they will put the highest impact displays in there. Highest impact are usually the ones that have the highest gross profit margin. They'll have maybe they're under contract with a supplier that they have to sell X amount of product in the course of the ad in order for them to get a price. But yeah, the stores are all laid out, and I know we used to have maps that showed which was the top selling ends, and we had, God, I think we had like 40 ends, but we had all of the top selling ads or top selling ends laid out into the store. One of the things that I've heard a lot of people complaining about over the years, they always wonder how come the meat department is in the back, how come the dairy's in the back, and a lot of the older stores, how come the pharmacy was all the way in back. The reason they do this is they figure those are the departments with the highest percentage of sales, which means they have, I know with the store I worked at, we used to get a report called God, I just drew a blank. But we used to get a report that showed what percentage of the customers hit the specific departments, and the meat and the dairy were the two biggest departments outside of the center store. So they put those departments all the way in the back, and that way people have to walk by all this other stuff in order to get to those departments. And I remember reading a stat years and years ago that it was in a grocery market magazine, and one of the conclusions is that approximately 90% of all grocery store sales are impulse sales. So if everybody went in, just bought what was exactly on their list, a lot of these stores would go broke. So that's why they do everything they can to upsell people. You know, the store I worked at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, from 4 to 6, they had French bread coming out of the oven I believe it was every 15 minutes, and it was just amazing for a self-advertising product. You know, because people would come in, and you know they'd be smelling.
Hungry for dinner.
Yep, they're hungry for dinner, and they smell that French bread. And I don't know how many times when I worked out in the main part of the store that I would see people that they would have a half-eaten loaf of French bread or an empty wrapper or something that they couldn't pass it up. So that's one of the ways that a lot of these stores, they do everything they can to get you to do these impulse sales. That's why they have the tastings, you know, where they got the little old ladies with the little pieces of pizza and stuff like that all around the store, because they're trying to get you to try some of this new stuff, and hopefully you'll like it and you'll buy it. Years and years ago, I came up with an idea about making special tags for new products, and they liked that idea, and I got $50 for it. And then I found out a couple years later that they were selling this idea to some of the big manufacturers. So the big manufacturers, what they were doing is they were paying this company a slotting fee, which was a specific spot on the shelf, and they had specially made new product signs all throughout the store. And one of my coworkers and I, we sat down and we figured it out. This idea that I got $50 for, if I remember right, just out of our division and out of our warehouse, they were making an extra like $20 million a quarter. So you know, it made me feel really fair. Another thing that the average female height in the United States is 5'2" tall. And when you're looking at a shelf, the sweet spot is between 4 feet and 5.5 feet, because that is considered eye level. And since ladies have been the predominant shopper, you know, that's where they're trying to get the impulse sales. Well, there again, a lot of the manufacturers, they will pay to have their products put in this sweet spot. So that's why a lot of times you'll see the private label stuff down on the bottom shelf, you know, hidden away, because some of the national manufacturers want their stuff right there in the center of the shelf. And then another thing too is usually the private label stuff are cheaper than the national brands. Well, one of the things you will find with the private label stuff is almost all of the private label stuff is made by a national manufacturer, and they just put a different label on the can or the bottle or whatever. Sometimes you can figure it out. I know when I was at the store, you know, we had figured out a whole bunch of the private label stuff, because once in a while we would have, you know, a case of cans come in, and it was supposed to be the private label, and it was actually the manufacturer's national brand, but the outside of the box had the private label tags on it. So, you know, a lot of it is check out and see, because not always is the national brand, it's not always necessarily better. You know, Theresa and I have done a lot where we've compared private label to the national brands. In some instances, the national brands are much better, but a lot of times we found that you save a lot of money by going with the private label. You know, and if it's something that you guys eat a lot of, I mean, you know, canned vegetables, check out, you know, if you're going to buy 4 cans of canned corn and you normally buy the national brand, well, buy 3 of the national brand and buy 1 of the private label, and sneak it in on your family to see if they even notice a difference. And I'm guessing that they probably won't in most cases. Okay, trying to see. Oh, one of the things that, and I'm sure everybody has noticed this, one of the things that a lot of stores will have multiple pricing, you know, 3 for $5, so on and so forth. The store I worked at, they would do a lot of 10 for 10s. And I did an experiment in the liquor store, and I was really curious to see how it affected the sales. And one week I ran they were little 4-packs of wine coolers, and one week I ran them at $3.49 for the 4-pack, which was about $1 savings. And then the next time I ran them in the ad, and I did it at the same, where the ad broke approximately the same time of the month, because the store I worked at, the 29th through about the 6th, those were the biggest selling days, because all the people that get paid usually are paid there. The once a month people, the once every 2 weeks people. A lot of times the EBT or food stamps, that's when they would come out. I think in our town they would all come out on the 3rd. But these coolers, I ran them 1 month at $3.49, and then the next month I ran them at 2 for $7. And what was really amazing is that the 2 for $7, you're paying a penny more a 4-pack, but I sold almost 3 times as many at the 2 for $7 as I did at the $3.49. So it's all a mind game, which is, it's really sad, but it really people are caught up by this mind game. Another thing, one last thing I got to talk about is impulse areas. That there's a lot of parts at the store that are just killer for impulse sales. Right as you walk in the door, as you're coming up to the front end, they like having big, beautiful displays right there, right as you're walking in the store. And what's funny is a lot of times they will have big signs declaring that this product is $3.49 or whatever, and then you notice that's their regular price, but people will buy it because it is sitting on that display. They've got it signed up properly. Another thing too, I'm sure you guys have noticed that the number of candy displays are right there at the register, and they're eye level to a 6-year-old. That is not an accident, and I know it really irritates a lot of parents, but it's right there. You put it in front of them. But that's why they have, the drink coolers right there. That's why they have the jerky, the candy, the gum, because those are a high impulse area, and a lot of people fall for it. So some of the recommendations that pretty much people have been saying this for a lot of years. Never go to the store hungry. That is a huge thing, because you're walking through the store, your stomach's growling, and you smell the French bread or the pizza or whatever, and you'll crater. 9 times out of 10, you'll crater. Another thing that I highly recommend is go over the ads and make a list. Make a list, check it twice, because if you go in there with, I got the list right up here. It's in my head. 9 times out of 10, you're either going to forget something, or you're going to pick up stuff that wasn't on your list. But go in with the list, and be disciplined enough to pick up just what is on your list. That's the biggest thing I've seen people do is they'll have a list, or they'll go in hungry, or they don't have a list, they'll go in hungry. They just want to look around, and they'll go in for 5 items and end up walking out with $200 worth of stuff. It happens a lot, and that's what these stores are counting on. A lot of the big chain stores, I'm not exactly what you call them. I don't want to call anybody by name, because I don't want them to come after me. But these stores that have a department store, that have grocery sections, they have a huge advantage over just the straight grocery stores, because they can run stuff at the grocery department and they can run it cheaper than just the straight grocery stores, because they have the clothes and sporting goods. They have all this area where they can make up for the profit they're losing on the groceries. You know, most grocery stores, by the time you pay labor and everything, they are not making diddly squat. But, you know, these big department stores, you know, okay, yeah, they can run they can run a lot of the groceries at a real tight gross profit margin. But then, you know, they've got this freezer that they're going to charge you, you know, they're going to be making double their money off of it. So whatever, you know, they're hoping that a lot of those items will be impulse sales more so than the grocery items. So I think that's about all I had. So if you have any questions, don't forget to do it down below, and I will try to answer it as best as I can. And even though I act like it, I don't know everything, but I try. So do you have anything to say? Oh, she's got her headphones on. So we will talk to you another day. You guys have a wonderful evening, and we really appreciate all of you. Bye.